Number 10. Reptilian Overlords. The Ubaid figurines, relics from the earliest remnants of human civilization, may just be the evidence of our ancient reptilian overlords. These strange artifacts were found at the archaeological site of Al-Ubaid in modern Iraq, what was once ancient Mesopotamia. They date back to the Ubaid period around the year 5500 BC, making the statues at least 7,000 years old. Mainstream archaeologists say that the statues were carved by the ancient Sumerians, commonly believed to be the first major civilization on the planet. The figurines are carved almost to look like humans, except for the outrageous fact that they are certainly reptilian in nature, with obvious reptile eyes and heads like lizards. The theory here is that the Sumerians came into direct contact with reptilian creatures and they made their figurines in their likeness. Some claim the reptilian overlords revealed themselves to the ancient people of the world and helped them to push society forward before retreating into the shadows. Nobody knows where these reptilians may have come from, though the main assumption is that they came from space. Number 9. Mayan Astronaut King. Researchers in Mexico finally decoded the name written in hieroglyphics on a tomb in the ancient city of Palenque. The tomb belonged to the ancient Mayan ruler King Pakal. The inscription that was finally decoded on the tomb reads, "The House of the Nine Sharpened Spears." This was a pretty astounding revelation since the crypt was originally discovered over 60 years ago in 1948. But it's not the inscription or the hieroglyphics that really have investigators in a frenzy trying to find more clues. It's King Pakal himself, who some say was an ancient astronaut. The king was born in the year 603. He ascended the age of only 12 and led one of the most prosperous governments the ancient city of Palenque had ever seen. He was also responsible for some of the finest architecture that still remains in the ruins of the Maya city today. When the king was discovered in his tomb, the archaeologists were shocked to see that the lid to his sarcophagus depicted a man reclining in a spaceship as if about to take off to the moon. This led to all kinds of outrageous theories, with the main one being that somehow King Pakal was an astronaut. There doesn't appear to be any obvious way that the old Mayan king could have traveled to space. In fact, mainstream science would say that the idea is completely insane. The only thing that would make any sense is if he'd been visited by extraterrestrials who put him inside their spaceship and then brought him back later. It could be that King Pakal had his experience with extraterrestrials memorialized on the lid of his sarcophagus. But again, this is just a theory. Number 8. The Sanshin aliens. Strange figurines found at the Chinese archaeological site of Sanshin have sparked more wild theories about aliens. Oddly enough, the figurines found here very closely resemble the reptilian figurines found at Ubaid. They have thin eyes like lizards, though their bodies are a little bit more human. Still, they have ridiculously large ears, weird faces, and everything about them screams extraterrestrial. It could be that the ancient society living in Sanshin 3,000 years ago met the same race of reptilian overlords as the Sumerians 4,000 years earlier, then recreated them using sculptures. Naturally, all mainstream scientists have denied the claim, but it wouldn't be forbidden history if everyone agreed on the more shocking theory. The Sanshin ruins themselves were discovered back in 1929 and date to the Bronze Age. Nobody knows exactly who these people were, as there have been no historical records of them found anywhere else in China. Even though they boasted wildly advanced technology, were able to create impressive pieces of architecture and design clothes, they are ghosts in the historical record. It could be that the people of Sanshin didn't need any contact with the outside world after coming face to face with aliens. Number 7. Alien Skulls. Elongated humanoid skulls that may have belonged to aliens or even human/alien hybrids have been discovered in a cemetery in Mexico. According to the Scientific American, these skulls date back 1,000 years and were deliberately wrapped in cloth to distort their shape. At least this is the official narrative. Researchers say that the skulls belong to ordinary humans who practice skull deformation, which involved compressing the skulls of children so that as they grew, their skulls became elongated and they looked like aliens. These kinds of skulls have been found everywhere across the globe, from Mexico to Peru, and even throughout places in Europe. This has led to some serious speculation over whether the people were really people at all, and not aliens. After all, it seems insane that Europeans and Mesoamericans would have come up with the same weird idea to compress the skulls of their children. Why would two groups of people who have never met each other do such a thing if not inspired by visitors from outer space with deformed heads? Or even spookier is the idea that these were in fact people, but that they were born from a union between a human woman and an alien man, hence the cranial deformities. Number 6. Renaissance UFOs. A painting from the 15th century very obviously shows aliens visiting Earth hundreds of years ago, and nobody wants to talk about it. The painting is called Madonna and the Child, and it depicts John the Baptist as an infant in the presence of the Madonna. Currently, the painting is hanging on the wall at the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. Nobody knows exactly who made the painting, though it has been credited to either Jacopo del Celaio or Sebastiano Mainardi. But it's not John the Baptist or the portrayal of the Madonna that have captured people's attention. It's the UFO clearly hovering in the sky in the background. Over the Madonna's shoulder, there is a black orb hovering in the sky. Below the orb is a man with his hand to his brow, as if gazing at it. He even has a dog beside him, also staring at the UFO. This is bizarre because they didn't have flying objects back in the 1500s. They had no airplanes, and they certainly didn't have spacecraft. This painting is either proof that people have been witnessing UFOs for hundreds of years, or that during the Renaissance, it was public knowledge that aliens existed. Perhaps the artist was using his imagination, or perhaps he had seen something mysterious and decided to add it to his work. We'll likely never know the full story. Number 5. Nazi aliens. Nearing the end of World War II, Hitler was desperate to develop a superior technology that could win him the war. Luckily, the US developed the atomic bomb first. Still, there are a lot of rumors floating around about special weapons the Germans were working on. One of these weapons is called Die Glocke. As rumor has it, the Nazis managed to get a hold of some alien technology and were trying to create an anti-gravity weapon that would devastate their enemies. It was obviously never developed or used, but the rumors are there. Some even say that after the war was over, the SS Colonel Hans Kammler traded the Die Glocke technology to the Americans in return for his freedom. This theory is purported by the fact that in December of 1965, a UFO was seen crashing outside Kecksburg in Pennsylvania. The UFO was allegedly the result of Die Glocke alien technology being experimented with by US scientists. Unfortunately, seeing as we don't have any anti-gravity machines 70 years after the war, there probably isn't much stock in this rumor. It's still interesting to think about what would have happened if the German military really did get a hold of alien technology. They could have won the war if they had a bit more time to study it. Do you think any military could stand up to powerful alien technology? Or would we be all toast if extraterrestrials did show up on their spacecraft? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Then remember to subscribe to Talltanic if you haven't already for more wild videos. Number 4. The Extraterrestrial Pharaoh. The Pharaoh Akhenaten ruled Egypt between the years 1351 and 1334 BC. He was the 10th ruler of the 18th dynasty and may have been an alien. This is a forbidden part of Egyptian history, as most historians tend to dismiss any notion that Akhenaten was anything but an odd-looking man. One of the strangest things the pharaoh did was force his fellow Egyptians to renounce all their gods. Up until his rule, the Egyptians worshipped a pantheon of different gods, including the sun god Ra. After he took power, he ordered that only the god Aten was to be worshipped, greatly angering the general population. He started the cult of Aten and built temples in this new god's honor. Even stranger is that Akhenaten looked Judging on the depictions of him carved on ancient walls and his larger-than-life statues, not quite like a woman, and not quite like a man. He seemed to be a hybrid human, and he even had an unusually elongated skull, like some of the alleged alien skulls unearthed in Mexico and Peru. Akhenaten has been called the alien king of Egypt for this very reason, as many believe he was either wholly alien or at least part alien. Number 3. Martian Fossils. 25 years ago, scientists with NASA made a shocking announcement, claiming they had spotted potential alien life from Mars in a meteorite. It happened in 1996 when David McKay and his team of researchers thought they found microbial fossils inside a meteorite called Allen Hills 84001. The meteorite ended up on our planet after a cosmic impact on Mars, something so powerful that rocks were literally blasted off the planet to land on Earth. It was discovered in Antarctica by geologists riding snowmobiles, a total freak discovery that shocked the scientific community. The meteorite was from a piece of rock that formed 4 billion years ago and landed on Earth 13,000 years ago. Crystals discovered inside the meteorite appeared to be fossilized life forms, which would be direct evidence of alien life regardless of the size. But here's where things get fishy. After the announcement in 1996, scientists zipped their lips and stopped talking about it immediately. The discovery was cast aside and hasn't been properly investigated ever since. It was almost as if the physical evidence of life in the universe was a forbidden topic in mainstream science. The legacy of the meteorite still lives on today, but there's now so much controversy surrounding the discovery that it's doubtful anyone will ever believe the crystals found in the rock are actually fossilized aliens. Number 2. Police investigation. There was once a UFO sighting so believable that it was investigated by the police. A man named Robert Taylor told the police that he had witnessed an alien spaceship in the forest near Livingston back in 1979. At the time, Taylor was 61 years old. He described witnessing a mysterious object around 30 feet above him with a huge dome-shaped ceiling. It hovered above the forest and released 2 spiky spheres of light that began floating down towards Taylor. Before they reached him, he passed out. He woke up about 20 minutes later, completely disheveled, with his pants ripped and the police believing he had been the victim of a violent assault. Sadly, Taylor passed away in 2007. But his story did not die with him. Taylor had been a respected war hero and a devoted churchgoer, such a respectable man in his community that nobody even doubted his sighting. The first person he told was his wife, who was so worried by his dazed condition that she phoned the police, who then went to investigate the clearing. Oddly enough, by the time the local constable arrived at the clearing where the UFO was witnessed, there was already a mass gathering of police officers. This was bizarre because in the small town, there wasn't exactly a huge police force waiting to investigate random UFO sightings. The local officer discovered strange markings on the ground that appeared to have been left over by some kind of strange piece of machinery. The markings had no origin and didn't seem to go anywhere. They were just there, in a small grouping in the clearing and nowhere else. In the end, the case was shut down and no definitive answers were ever given. Number 1. Ancient Astronaut. The Catedral Nueva in Spain was built starting in the year 1513. It took a few centuries to finish as the construction was interrupted by a string of catastrophic events, including a devastating earthquake in 1755. But the reason the cathedral is so interesting today is that among the leaves and foliage carved into the stonework of the portico at the entrance, there is a carving of an astronaut. It's extremely out of place for something built almost 600 years before today. After all, the first astronauts weren't around until the 20th century, or so we think. So why in the world was an astronaut carved into a cathedral that was built in the 16th century? Unfortunately, the spaceman came years after the cathedral was originally built. The stoneworkers didn't prophesize a spaceman from the future. It was incorporated into the building when the carvings around the door needed to be replaced. The builders carved the spaceman in honor of one of the most important historical things that happened since the church was installed. Still, for visitors, the spaceman is quite shocking if you don't know the full story behind it. What's your interpretation of this type of forbidden history? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more awesome videos like these. See you next time. Bye!